All right, welcome back. And as I mentioned in the last class, I'm going to be talking about how the biological brain works and some of the challenges you are going to face in this process. I need a quick drink of water. Sorry. I actually record all of these at once, and so I end up recording for like 5 hours at a time. And I'm simultaneously recording a free training as well. So my mouth is definitely needing a little bit of moisture. Okay. So as I told you, the brain is all about efficiency and saving energy. And therefore, the brain is always going to take the path of least resistance. That path of least resistance is going to be the path that's been created by the narratives that you repeat over and over and over again. And then it becomes autopilot. The brain is automatically going to follow that stream of thought because it's what you've always done. Okay. So this means if you've been thinking a certain thoughts for a long while and those pathways in the brain have become deeply engraved, the brain will take that path over an uncarved path every time until you physically stop it with your thoughts. So until we become intentional and aware and we consciously choose to think something new. If not, you're basically on autopilot and your brain is saving energy. When you stop thinking in a certain way, those pathways essentially, um, to make it really easy to explain, die off. And they don't literally die off, but they become less activated. We have neuroplasty basically, and this is basically what this all comes down to is neuroplasty, is that our brains are actually very malleable. Malleable, I think is actually the correct pronunciation. Almost like clay. So we can dig into them, but once we stop creating that, once we stop thinking that same way, we almost starve that neural pathway out basically, and it stops becoming the path of least resistance. So to train the brain, you must make new pathways that become the path of least resistance. This is what it looks like in the brain when you form a new habit. At first, a new habit is difficult, but with time and consistency, it becomes second nature and requires very little effort on your part. So I'm sure you guys have all broken some habits or created new habits before. And, if you think about it, when you're first beginning or breaking a habit or starting a new habit, it's a lot of work. Like, even I remember when I first quit smoking all those years ago, cigarettes. Um, Man, I didn't think I was going to survive, especially that first week. It was just so habitual. Now, we're not necessarily a habit of the brain, but in some ways it was. Um, but now, all these years later, I rarely think about smoking cigarettes. So it's always really difficult at first, but when we really stick with it and we become very intentional, as I said, it in time it gets to be like where it doesn't take any extra effort. So it's not forever that you're battling these new stories, as I mentioned in the last class. So this class and this unit is going to be challenging for you because you will be forcing the brain and yourself to do a lot more work as you're creating new neural pathways and starving out the old, unhelpful old ways of thinking. So like I said, it's going to feel like it's a lot of work, but I don't want you to give up because I promise you, stick with it. And these things are going to become these new ways of thinking, these new stories, these new narratives that feel good. It's going to become your way of being in just a short amount of time. In fact, if you do this with consistency, you'll begin to see an ease within 21 days of consistency. So it doesn't even take a long time. So don't get discouraged, don't get overwhelmed if these things feel really challenging at first. And we go through challenges, right? This is why I say this process can take weeks, months, or even years to master each theme as you have identified, which I kind of talked about that last time. But even with that, as I talked about in the last class, it's not going to be a battle for years. It might be, oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard that in a while, but there it is popping back up. Well, that's okay because I've already have my new story in mind. I'm just going to redirect my brain and remind my brain of what I choose to be the path of least resistance in there. Um, while this course is just 8 units, The processes that you're learning will need to be applied consistency over long after your time with these classes has ended. And hopefully the way that I have now structured this new course with the membership, you are going to have the support and this growing database of classes and instructors and PDFs and worksheets that can continue to support you along this lifelong journey. And you have unlimited access, so you're in for life, so you're good. You have all the resources that you're going to need within this class to continue this work. So of course, and I mentioned this, of course, anyone who does want the more one-on-one, I do offer coaching, shadow work coaching. I don't reserve a lot of space for that any longer because I find that I can have a greater impact with my books that I write. I can have a greater impact doing group stuff like this membership that you're in, but I still do work with people one-on-one, very limited. So if this is something you're interested in, definitely reach out to me and check availability. We can get at least a discovery call in the books and kind of look at what your needs are and if I'm going to be a good fit. Let's see. With that being said, you will walk away from this course with a full toolbox to help you navigate your shadow aspects. And that's this membership. This membership is your toolbox. And you are going to, as I said, have lifetime access to all of the tools that are presented to you in this container. So it's just up to you to continue to implement and integrate and apply all that you're learning within this class, this course, and this membership experience. So that is a little understanding. I didn't go too deep with it, but just some insight into how your biological brain works and how you may face challenges. And I will see you in our next class.